Happy Wednesday, everyone. And thank you for joining us today for our All In for Kansas Kids bi-weekly webinar. It is January 26th, 2022. I am Debbie Deere, and I am joined today by my colleagues Hannah McGahee and Megan Brohoff. And we work for the Kansas Children's Cabinet and are coordinators for this webinar. We are looking forward, as always, to spending this noon hour with you to share opportunities that are available to you throughout the Early Childhood Network in Kansas, and also to highlight the important work that is happening around us. So today's agenda will include a general systems update on trainings, programs, and services that are currently happening in the Early Childhood Network. And please always note that each of these informational slides will also include in the caption how that information that we're sharing ties back to the All In for Kansas Kids strategic plan, which, as our Children's Cabinet Executive Director put recently, it serves as our North Star for all of the work that we do. We will be previewing briefly some information on an upcoming webinar for the kindergarten transitions work that is happening. And then we will be joined for the majority of our program today by the Our Tomorrow Story Bank team to give an overview of their work and conduct a mini sense-making session with us, as well as I will be sharing some recent information from you on an update for the Early Childhood Recommendations Panel and Governance Summit that just took place. So moving into our general updates. Hannah, do you want to go to the next slide? Thank you. The Low Income Energy Assistance Program, or better known as LEAP, is available to help qualifying households pay their winter heating bills. And so the assistance is available for persons with disabilities, older adults, and families with children. And this application process began on January 3rd and is continuing. And as I'm giving you all of this information, Megan is going to be sharing those links in the chat for everyone to reference as needed. And so you can go to that link to look into this more. Moving on, another opportunity that's also available is the Kansas Emergency Rental Assistance, or KERA program. And it is also to help individuals and families. And this is for up to 15 months of current or past due household rent, up to 3 months of prospective household rent, or any past due utility, internet, and fees that are related to past due rent. And we really need your help to get this information out to those families that you serve within your networks, because this program is designed to help people who are struggling with evictions for non-payment of rent, especially since the CDC eviction moratorium was recently overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. The Kansas chapter of American Academy of Pediatrics is going to be hosting 5 sessions for care coordinators, community health workers, and any interested healthcare professionals. And the dates for these sessions in February and March are listed here and will take place during the noon hour on these dates from 12 to 1. And so again, the link to access this information can be found in the chat. Childcare Aware is sharing some helpful tips for childcare providers to keep children in their care safe during these cold winter weather months. Safety tips to protect kids from extreme cold and ice conditions, guidance for safe outdoor play, the appropriate cold weather clothing that the children should be wearing, guidance on written winter weather emergency plans, and also COVID-19 safety tips. So all of these can be found on the Childcare Aware website. The Ages and Stages questionnaire, or ASQ as we know it, those trainings continue to be offered with dates that are available in February and March coming up. They are listed here. And these trainings provide resources to service providers on how to identify developmental, social, and emotional delays in children. And so this opportunity allows them to seek out and receive services as early as possible that are needed at an early age, and which better prepares them to successfully enter kindergarten. And then there are also free online ASQ subscriptions available to any organization that's already providing developmental screenings or would like to start offering those screenings. And you can access information for these trainings on the TASN website, at the link in the chat, as well as contacting your local Part C administrator for the online subscriptions. We continue to share information with you about the Kansas Racial Equity Collaboration. It is a statewide effort to understand the history of racial inequities in child welfare and to define the problem through a shared language so we can all advocate for racial equity. And so this collaborative has some virtual events, an event that is taking place on February 23rd. And the topic is Forward Movement Shifting from Control of to Support for Black and Brown Families. And if you're interested in learning more about this collaborative, or you would like to register for this event, you can go to the link provided for that information. A partnership between Child Care Aware of Kansas, DCF, and Links to Quality is allowing the opportunity for free one-on-one coaching and planning to all licensed child care providers throughout Kansas. Most of us are aware of the many responsibilities that providers have throughout a typical day with the work that they do, and this includes running their business. And so these sessions are designed to provide support for providers in the areas of successful and thriving business practices. And so there is a link provided to connect with these community consultants, and that happens through Child Care Aware. The Kansas Children's Service League, or KCSL, has some child abuse training available, and these trainings do qualify for child care licensing hours. So the dates for upcoming opportunities on this are in February are listed here, and those topics include ACEs and resilience, adverse childhood experiences, and then mandatory reporter training for child abuse and neglect, plus many, many more. So you can go to the KCSL website to look for those. And I am going to turn it over to Hannah for a second and let her talk to you about these career pathway feedback sessions.
Thank you, Debbie. We are very, very excited to have 3 scheduled provider feedback sessions on the career pathway. We had our first one last Saturday. It was Saturday morning. It was incredibly robust. Got to speak directly to childcare providers and get their feedback on the draft of the career pathway that we've been working on for the last 18 months or so. And we have 2 more scheduled. So Wednesday tonight, 6:30 to 8, and then Friday 10 to 11:30. If you're not familiar with the work on the career pathway in the All In for Kansas Kids strategic plan, it's specifically called out at 6.1.2. But the career pathway is a visualization of progression through the early childhood care and education workforce. And so it's kind of a segmentation of some of the natural steps that a provider would take and some of the positions that they might be able to occupy in their professional advancement. So these feedback sessions, we've scheduled them specifically for providers, tried to schedule in convenient times where maybe you all are actually able to join us, but we really just want some raw feedback. You know, what do you think? What are some problems? If you're not able to attend one of these feedback sessions, we've included the link in the chat where you can locate the draft pathway as well as the flyer advertising these sessions, and feel free to reach out to Sarah or myself with any feedback or questions about the pathway itself. But this is the beginning of kind of the rollout of this version of the career pathway, and we've been very intentional in organizing our feedback sessions, starting with the providers, because we really want direct service feedback. So if you can make it, we would love to see you tonight or Friday. If not, take a look at a draft pathway. And like I said, reach out to myself or Sarah with any comments or questions. We're going to be compiling everything and looking at it comprehensively once we're done. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you, Anna. The Family Service and Guidance Center is offering a real-world parenting series. And so this has programs and presentations to provide information and tools to help make raising children and teens less stressful. And so the program on childhood trauma is tomorrow, and registration for this is available on their website. And next month, on the 24th of February, a presentation on the topic of depression is also going to be available. There are other additional programs being offered every month throughout this year, so be sure to check these out on their website. The Tribal Maternal, Infant, and Early Childhood Home Visiting Program has a development and implementation grant opportunity that is available. And this is offered through the Federal Administration for Children and Families, and is recognized Native American tribal organizations are eligible to apply for this funding opportunity. The application period started January 19th. It goes through April 15th. And so you can contact, and I'm going to try to say this name, Farah Marfani, at this email listed here for more information. And my apologies if I did not pronounce that name correctly. The Kansas Early Childhood Governance Summit, which we mentioned at the last webinar, took place last Friday on January 21st in the morning. And this happened during the regular time slot that is usually used for the Early Childhood Recommendations panel meeting. And so we had 9 groups from the Kansas Early Childhood Governance System that joined to share information on their purpose, their progress to date, their goals for 2022, which is the final year for the PDG grant, and then opportunities for best how to work together to accomplish the goals for the All In for Kansas Kids strategic plan, and hopefully future connections and collaborations within the early childhood system. And so it was great presentations from everybody. We powered through it very efficiently. There were 10 minutes per group, and they were able to just really share out all of the great things that they're happening. This is going to be available for your viewing on the Kansas Children's website at the link listed here, or you can also contact me for information on that, or to make connections with any of the participating groups. I'd be happy to help you do that. And so here's a list of the groups that were there that day. And again, we just really appreciate the time that they took. And for any of you that are able to view this or had already joined in, we appreciate your participation. The Early Childhood Recommendations panel, we continue to want to share information with you about this. Our meetings are routinely held on the third Friday morning of every month from 9 to 11:30. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 18th. These can always be watched live on the Kansas Children's Cabinet YouTube channel, as well as available to watch later on the website as well. And we always encourage you to offer input to us. So if you'd like to do that, either written or verbal, you can contact me and I can make arrangements with you to be able to do that. And our last meeting was very brief. We met for just a few minutes after the Governance Summit last Friday and took care of our regular housekeeping items. And then Melissa Rooker, Executive Director for the Kansas Children's Cabinet, and Amanda Peterson, our panel chair, discussed the timeline and provided some clarity for the current work groups as they finalize the draft recommendations that they're working on in the focus areas of childcare recruitment and retention, family partnerships, and quality and environments. And that work has been happening since last August. we're really getting close to having those ready. We will work on those in February and then present them in March. And then if approved, they will be elevated onto the Children's Cabinet for consideration. I did mention that we wanted to give you a little bit of a preview. That Kindergarten Transitions Planning team is going to be attending our February 23rd webinar. And this is going to be a joint presentation by the Kansas Head Start Collaboration Office and the Kansas Head Start Association. And they're going to present on 4 points of connection that are essential for effective kindergarten transitions. And those points of connection are child in school, family in school, community in school, and programs in schools. And so the practices in the communities across Kansas that are being utilized right now will be shared, and how they've implemented these practices to have effective transitions, and then how you can start or strengthen this work throughout your communities. And with that, we are ready to move into our program segment for today. And we have the Our Tomorrows joining us, and we have Ariana Nasra, and she is going to be presenting today. Welcome, Ariana.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for having me today. Hopefully I am at least a little familiar to most of y'all here. I come on these calls pretty often. But if you don't, I'm Ariana Nasra. I work at KU Center for Public Partnerships and Research. And I am a research project coordinator on the Our Tomorrows project. And today we hopefully are going to have a really fun time as we work through this, and then hopefully also provide you with a little sneak peek as to what is ahead of us in the next coming months with Our Tomorrows 3.0, which we are very, very excited about. Apparently, I don't know what the date is, but it's the 26th, not the 25th. So here is what I'd like to get into our minds. I want this to not be a presentation. I really want y'all to be engaged and participate and shout out if you ask questions. Feel free. I want to be interrupted. So first we are going to do a little reflection exercise, and then we're going to look at some patterns that we have been looking at and might be of interest to everyone here. So first of all, just to get us into the zone for thinking about what we're going to be doing next, please consider the question: when have you most recently felt like you either really succeeded or really stuck in your work supporting children and families? What happened? So just get to that place in your mind. It's been a rough couple of years. So I understand if revisiting these memories is a little rough, but I am here to support and help you work through this. Though not professionally, I am not qualified to do that. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is I don't know how many of you are familiar with the annotation function here in Zoom, but I think if you can see my screen and see the little menu at the top of the page, there's an annotate button. And once you click that, you can pick a stamp. And that is what we will be using here in a moment. Let me open up chat to make sure. I never know how to find it once I'm in here.
Ariana, I'm going to jump in real quick. I'm not seeing that on my screen. Hannah, are you?
The annotate function in the
Yes.
menu?
Yes. So when I look up, it says I'm viewing Ariana's screen, and then to the right of that it says view options. I click that, and then it's got annotate. It's the fourth down. And Ariana, I'll monitor the chat for you as well. So I'll let you know if there's something that pops up.
Okay, I appreciate it. So if you have the annotation function up and running, please participate now. So thinking about that experience from the previous slide, COVID-19 mostly affected or affects the past, the present, or the future. So you can place your dot or your marker anywhere on this triangle. So if I think, yeah, there we go. You all know, I'm not going to provide any more instruction. You all know what you're doing. Yeah, so please feel free, everyone, to participate. And just know that once you're done with this, you have to close out with the little red X. Otherwise, you'll be leaving stars everywhere for everyone. So this is our tomorrows in like real time. It's really exciting to watch, but these are how the patterns happen that we usually put in our presentations to show you. Is just the culmination of people responding to these questions and the patterns that form. So right now, the pattern is sort of forming right here where most of you are saying that COVID has affected or is affecting mostly the present and the future and somewhat the past. What we like to do with this on the Our Tomorrows team is just sort of think about what this might mean. So if folks are putting their stars here in between the present and the future, what does that mean? What can that tell us? We're not going to dig in too deep into that today, but this is just a fun little exercise to get us in the right headspace. So unless anyone stops me, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. Maybe. Okay. Oh, I don't. Hannah, do you know how to remove? Oh, no, that's not it. Do you know how to remove the little stamps?
I don't.
I don't either. Clear all. Oh, look at that.
Look at you go.
Look at me go. Figuring out building the plane while flying it. One of the questions that this is the part that I feel like will be of interest to a lot of you. One of the questions that we've been asking with our Tomorrow's 2.0 framework is keeping the experience in mind. So whatever experience a respondent shared with us, what was the biggest thing that held you, your family, or someone you know back? We call these things disruptors. In this question, these were the options down here that we provided. This one is for folks who declined to answer this question. But the yellow bars are from 2021 or from 2020, and then the blue bars are from 2021. So we can see that there's been some pretty dramatic changes connected back to that triad that we just did together. We can see that perhaps COVID is indeed impacting our present and our past. So some of the biggest differences that we're seeing: mental health issues between 2020 and 2021. We are seeing an increase in childcare issues from 2020 to 2021, an increase in housing problems, check out this internet and tech access one. I think this is really interesting because at the beginning of the pandemic, this was a real issue. I think we all can remember, and we were there for that. So these changes are just really, really interesting. We know that the pandemic has really impacted every part of everyone's lives. Does anyone have any thoughts that they'd like to share out? Any sort of first feelings about seeing this chart? Anything surprising, what have you?
I'm definitely not surprised to see that. I mean, it's kind of scary to see the childcare issues, but we've been hearing reports back about spots just disappearing. Centers are choosing to close, programs are choosing to close, just getting to a point of kind of feeling exhausted. And so it's interesting to see that reflected here, and saddening.
Yeah, it's really coming through in the data. Anyone else? So the next thing that we are going to look into are some more patterns, but these are going to be specifically thinking about how people feel about asking for help. So this is the entire Our Tomorrows data set. So over 3,000 stories. And this is the general pattern that we've seen when we ask, thinking about my story and others like it, when I need support, asking for help is the first thing I do or a last resort. And folks, if you are unfamiliar, it's just a sort of sliding scale where folks have a marker and they can slide it to where it best fits their experience. We can see it's pretty spread out. Again, this is from March 2020 to December 2021. So it's almost 2 full years of data. Results for those who said their experience occurred within the past couple of days. And then results for those who said their experiences occurred more than a year ago. So the interesting thing here, this is a question that I feel very, very strongly about because I think it's really important, especially in a place like Kansas, where we really have that sense of that bootstrap mentality that asking for help is uncomfortable or awkward, or we don't feel like it's something that we deserve or need. Does anyone have any thoughts about these charts? I think it's really interesting to kind of see that shift from asking for help as a last resort to folks becoming a little bit more comfortable moving towards the left side of the scale.
Ariana, we have a comment from Rich. He says, I'd be interested to see if there are any differences in the profiles of those submitting stories between the 2 years.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I thought this might happen and I should have put money that it was going to be Rich. Why don't we just get into the data? So, Hannah, can you repeat for me the question?
Absolutely. He says, I would be interested to see if there are any differences in the profiles of those submitting stories between the 2 years.
Yes. Okay. So let's go. A while to go, but okay, so within this time frame, we have 2,000 stories. Something very interesting just happened here, but let's go and look at the demographics of folks submitting the story. So in this first year of data collection, most of the stories shared are about me or my family. Experiences for the most part happen just this once. People feel pretty negatively about their experience. We expected this because this is the first year of COVID. We have bright spots where the family stayed strong, community members support each other. There were no bright spots. And then in the disruptors, unemployment or financial issues were the biggest disruptor for folks. Health or healthcare issues as well. Majority of women during this first year, majority of folks were from working class families or were service providers. And primarily white respondents, white, non-Hispanic or Latino respondents making 60K or higher. And household sizes of 2 or 4, and people between the ages of 30 and 64. Let's see what else might be interesting here. So let's go back and look at the dyad. So in this first year, it's pretty much spread evenly across the spectrum. And then when we change to look at this most recent year, or I guess last year, can't believe we're in 2022. Can go all the way to today. We've got almost 1,300 stories, and it's about the same where folks are saying that asking for help is a last resort. I feel like it's maybe shifted a little bit, but we can go look at the demographics again. Just this once, family stayed strong. Let's see, unemployment issues, still pretty big, but now we see that increase in mental health that we talked about. Still primarily white folks sharing their stories, non-Hispanic or Latinx, and still making up a pretty high percentage of 60K or higher. But what we are missing, and I'm so sorry, is frequency, nope, time. So for folks who said within the last few days, and then, sorry, this is data analysis in action. We can see that sort of change. This is
You're good. While you're,
who's talking to me?
oh, I was, explain what some something else factors, or do you have any examples of the something else factors of disruption?
No, so that is just what folks chose when none of the options that we did provide weren't the disruptors. I wonder if you give me a second, I may be able to dig something up if that is of interest to folks. I'm going to stop sharing right now and see if I can pull it up. Data analysis in action. It's both fun and also a little boring to watch me click through the things. I think I might be a word cloud.
Rich, did you, were you surprised by any of that demographic data? Was it kind of what you anticipated? And you can answer off mute.
No, that's helpful. It seems like from both years it was a similar group, maybe even many of the same people telling different stories at a different time. But yeah, it didn't seem like there was much of a change in the population. I think just looking at the demographics itself, sort of, I think a relatively small number of stories from people who are kind of in deep poverty. But that also probably reflects the distribution of income in the general population to some degree too. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
I'm having some issues with my audio, but I think your evaluation is very astute. And I think it could also be a representation of privilege, just being able to take time away to participate in conversations like this as well.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for that, Hannah. I am almost there. Yeah, I might not have a word cloud, but that is an interesting question, Debbie, that we are also interested in finding out. If you'd like, we have a couple different dashboards that we are working with. That I can show you.
Well, and my question was just, for the intention of if there are other areas to identify that maybe we're not addressing within the system, and some services and such that supports that people need, that we could be aware of that.
Yeah, so a neat thing that we can do is we can isolate those numbers and then take a look at stories as well. But this is just a fun word cloud from the entire Our Tomorrows 2.0 data set. And you can really, really see how predominant, COVID is here. But also lots of people talking about family and home, and then school as well. And I think we can all remember, or are still dealing with it, how challenging school has been for our little ones. But if I go back in here, so what I can do is go to our disruptors, and then we can filter by something else. And we had 500 in the entire data set. We had 500 people say something else was disrupting their life or the life of their family or whomever they shared the story about. And then first thing we can do is look at look at the demographics, see if there's any noticeable changes. None so far, lots of families staying strong. People are relying a lot on their family, but that is something that really comes through the data all the time. Still mostly women working, family, service provider, folks living in a rural area, and single parents. Still primarily white folks with an income of 60,000 or higher. But we can also go look at the stories and just see what the stories have to say, because sometimes the data, like we have seen now, is not enough, and we need that special context that comes from the stories. So this is from the beginning of the pandemic, just lots of, this is really scary, no one knows what's going on. But if I scroll to the bottom, these are the more recently submitted stories, and we can see sort of what is disruptive. So here we have a story from someone who had a child in their care that needed sign language, and they had no support there, or no way to navigate this. So that could be something else. Let's see, lots of stuff about school. I think maybe the big disrupting something else could just primarily be the pandemic, but it can also just be these issues with school. Mental health, although we did see the uptick in that in the charts. Making sure folks have food, substance abuse recovery, support with the adoption process. So we can see that there are all kinds of things. We of course can't, make a list of every single thing that we know of that can disrupt a family, but those people, as Debbie rightly pointed out, those people that say something else, we need to know what that something else is. From just a quick skim, I am getting that something else might be school. It might just be COVID in general. But really interesting stuff. I hope that was of interest to you, and we can hop back into this.
Thank you for diving into that a little bit, Ariana.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone have any other question that they want to bring up? I am more than happy to just keep clicking through the dashboard and looking at data, or we can continue with the PowerPoint. All good? Okay, so here is the same question that we were talking about earlier, just how people feel about asking for help. This time we filtered the data based on the disruptors of unemployment or financial issues, or those who said childcare issues was the most disruptive thing in their experience. So we can see a pretty different chart. So unemployment or financial issues, it looks like folks really uncomfortable with asking for help. You can really just see it trend upwards, with a small spike in people saying it's the first thing that they do. For those who said childcare issues, we see, I think, a wider spread. And I just wonder if anyone has any thoughts about these differences in these charts. I think they're really interesting. Well, that's okay too. We can keep going. It does make me ponder, what are the different circumstances that make people more comfortable asking for help, over treating it as a last resort. And this is the same chart, except it's service providers over each year. So service providers look like they're very comfortable asking for help. As well, in 2021, we can see it is a much more steady trend upwards, closer to that first thing to do side. Rich, you're saying self-reliance is more valued in financial life than in childcare. Truer words haven't been said. So here are two stories, one from a service provider last year, and then one from a 2 years ago, goodness, and then one from a service provider last year. If you want to take a moment to read them, go ahead. And just any initial thoughts or feelings about these two stories. I think something that we often forget about in our tomorrows, we really, often are reading stories that are heartbreaking and people feel negatively about them. And it helps us identify gaps in services or urgent needs, things like that. But another valuable thing about people sharing their stories is that it also tells us about things that are already working. So in the second story from a service provider in 2021, they were able to access some services to help them get their childcare facility or home base up and running. So I think they specifically called out RCDC, as well as the technology lending library and mini grants. So not only is Our Tomorrows a way to identify issues and problems, it's also a way of checking to see if the interventions or new services or what have you are actually working.
Well, and I think, Ariana, what we keep hearing so much over and over again in our work, as well as the stories that you're receiving, is just the awareness that the COVID pandemic has brought to the childcare field, and just how difficult it is to start those businesses. And, I'm looking at this second story thinking, the reason why they decided to start a family childcare, for personal reasons and how it fits their family's needs better, but that's easier said than done. And so elevating that awareness has hopefully brought some of those support services, made those more available. And in the first story, I can relate to that myself as a provider, because when everything first hit in 2020, I mean, almost all of the children just stopped coming for a while. And it's like, how do you manage that? How do you make ends meet? How do you keep your business going and still be able to possibly serve the few families that did need you? So all of that was so overwhelming, but I think that, that is constantly evolving. But it's exciting to see in the second story that there are some supports out there now for those folks that are interested. We need them very badly. So we want more providers to make this decision to, do this for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the shift that we saw, right? We saw that shift where it was kind of across the board in 2020, where providers felt, across the board about asking for help. But then we saw in 2021 that uptick towards asking for help. And then we can see it in the story of it working. I think that's really, really exciting. And I already did this with you guys. I was gonna say, I think I am about out of time. So sorry for the rocky beginning, but I hope that this was informative and a little bit of fun placing your star on the chart. Do you recall any stories of families working together to meet their childcare needs? I'll answer this if that's okay, Hannah. Okay. I cannot think, Rich, I cannot think of any specific stories in my mind, but I know anecdotally just from friends of mine that is a thing that's happening. I remember when the pandemic first started, people picked their pandemic bubble people, basically, and a lot of them picked them based on, can we help each other provide childcare? I know that happened a lot. I know right now, again, anecdotally, in the research that we were doing for 3.0, I know someone who's splitting childcare costs with their neighbor by getting a nanny, and the nanny splits their time between the houses. So both kids will be at one house one week, and then both kids will be at the other house. So I know it's happening. I would have to dig a little to see if I could find stories and experiences specifically talking about that, though.
I think I ran across something last week, and it was talking about the Chicago Public Schools and the teachers union, and some of the instability that's being caused by remote versus in-person learning, especially with Omicron. And there were a lot of stories coming out of that where people who were at home, I'm sorry for the noise on my floor, people that were at home were sharing childcare. Because maybe some people had really flexible occupations, but other people still didn't. And so I think that the virtual versus in-person learning for K-12 is going to continue to create this instability with care. I mean, just because of all of these surges that keep happening.
Yeah. And Rich, to address your thought, I'd be interested in how consumers of childcare can be organized into buying clubs. I think that is also really interesting. And hopefully it's something that we'll be able to kind of get to with our Tomorrow's 3.0.
Well, yeah, and it's maybe a little bit beyond the scope of just our Tomorrows, but as I was looking at, policy and program generally in early care and education, there's been a pretty successful effort to organize the supply side in terms of professional development and various things, but consumers of childcare, they're consistently on their own. Individually, they're not collectively acting as groups of buyers entering the marketplace and voicing their demands together as a group. And I kind of made me wonder that if like I mentioned in a previous one of these meetings here, if there was models around co-ops and other ways that consumers of childcare are organized in the marketplace, and you enter as a group and have more market power in the marketplace to demand more of what you want at a fair price. And it just might be a different way to approach the problem than just purely on the supply side, as the consumers are just sort of passively waiting for the supply to come along. Maybe they might be, if they were organized, maybe they might be a little bit better partners in the solution.
Yeah, and I think they're poised to do that. Some of the research that we did in preparation for our Tomorrow's 3.0 was talking to parents, basically, and trying to figure out what their needs are and also how they communicate about childcare. And one thing that we uncovered is this really huge reliance on social media groups. So I believe almost every single female parent that I spoke to was involved in one of these groups, and that's how they found out about a potential opening somewhere, or that's how they found out about resources they could access. So I think it's there, like people are already doing it. It's just the kind of coming together and making it into something that childcare facilities and childcare providers can utilize and use. And that'll be it for me. I'm done.
We so appreciate having you. Thank you so much. You're on mute, Debbie.
Sorry about that little delay. My screen was doing something weird, so I was trying to manage that. Let's move on to the upcoming meetings and reminders and next steps. Again, I mentioned that the recommendations panel is meeting on February 18th next in the morning from 9 to 11:30. Our next bi-weekly webinar will be on Wednesday, February 9th, 2 weeks from today at noon. Please always let us know what topics you're interested in hearing about, or if you have something that you would like to share out with our audience. We do have a children's cabinet and stakeholder group meetings, both coming up next Friday, February 4th. The children's cabinet meeting will be in the morning from 9 to noon, and the stakeholder group meeting in the afternoon from 1:30 to 3. We do ask you to go to the Kansas Children's Cabinet website. You can view the cabinet meeting live, and then you can also register to join the stakeholder group meeting if you're interested. And that link is listed here, as well as always inviting you to share feedback of any kind, and you can go to the Children's Cabinet website to do that. So in closing today, I just wanted to give you a quote that I found, and it says, "One of the most important things you can do on this earth is to let people know they are not alone." And so the reason why I chose this quote today is because I think that it speaks not only to the type of work that most of us do in striving to help others, but also to the types of individuals that we are who live and care with, who live with caring and empathetic hearts. And, you know, some of the information that Ariana just shared with us, you know, kind of speaks to the types of work that we do and the people that we're trying to help. And so keep staying strong and healthy in this trying time, and please reach out to us if we can ever help support you or your work in any way. Especially want to say to continue saying thank you for everything you do to make the lives of children and families in Kansas better. And we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. And thank you for spending the noon hour with us today. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.